What's up, World Cup on cricket.com, and we're going to be, of course, reviewing one hell of a clash, which, of course, ensued in New York. Not the India-Pakistan one. I'm talking about the South Africa versus Bangladesh one, which was an absolute humdinger. It's a shame, absolute shame that I missed a hell of a game because I decided to venture out and, of course, get a drink or two. And then I was thinking about it, and I was like 7-4. Shut the front door. I have to watch this. Memedullah so close, but it wasn't the finish. But I would have loved it. And I would have probably seen this for the first time. Would have loved it if Bangladesh won. It wasn't a B. South Africa getting the points and making it a hat-trick of wins in this T20 World Cup. My name's Avanish, and as usual, joining with some stellar guests on cricket.com, including Pramod, who, of course, was keeping a keen eye on that game in New York. And, of course, Jeet will have his insights as well. Lots more in this show, including, of course, looking ahead to the games tonight. But we're, of course, going to be talking about what happened last night. Right, about last night, it was not just me chugging drinks down for fun, but it was, of course, South Africa getting the points done. Your first thoughts, gentlemen, about how the game ebbed and flowed, and for majority of that game, Jeet, it felt like Bangladesh were in the driver's seat.
A massive missed opportunity for them, including that 4 leg byes that were not given because of the review, and they were really hard done by. Had those 4 leg byes been given, the result could have been very, very different. So very, very unfortunate on the part of Bangladesh. But it's that same story again, where they were not able to hold the nerve at the end, something that we have seen previously as well. But all in all, it was a great fight. I felt that it was a target that can be chased. And they had a very, very good start as well. And they were doing a pretty good job for the most part of the chase. But it's only the back end where they faltered and proved to be really, really costly for them. Had they won this game, my word, dude, 2 out of 2 wins, and this group also would have been extremely, extremely exciting going forward.
Yeah, it was madness. And look, Aiden Markram was chuffed in that post-match presentation because I was listening to him, and he, of course, took the all-important catch to dismiss Memedullah in the deep. And before I get Pramod's thoughts, let me just, of course, reflect that match summary scorecard for you all, because it looked something like this, with South Africa winning by a slender 4 runs, and that's the all-important telling line. But Heinrich Klaasen getting his man of the match for a not very Klaasen-esque knock, 46 of 44, but he will take that. Miller again, crucial with that 29 of 38. And of course, like I said, so close, but yet so far for Bangladesh. And Nix's, talking about Cricket Crazy's Nix, Thor Hidroy, really performing well. Pramod, your thoughts, man. And did you think at that point in time it could be a Bangladesh heist in New York?
Yes, that seemed to be the most likely result. But I think 2-3 moments from the game were definitely those last couple of overs that Bangladesh bowled, especially the last over from Mustafizur, that kept them. The last 2 overs just went for 8 runs. One was bowled by leg spinner Rishad Hussain, and then one from Mustafizur. Otherwise, I think South Africa would have gone to about 125, 130 if those 2 overs were not in control. But then, how do you not put away 3 full tosses in the last over of that chase? Man, I think Keshav Maharaj just handed it to them in the last over. At least if had one of them at least cleared the fence or hit the fence, I think it would be a completely different story. But yeah, these small moments that Bangladesh did not. That was probably the moment. Otherwise, I think the chase was pretty much under control till about the penultimate over. I think when they needed 18 or something like that. It was under control, but yeah, and they probably knew that Maharaj would probably get the ball in the last over, and he literally wanted them to back him out of the ground, and they just didn't take the opportunity with both hands. I think that's eventually the difference in the end.
It is. And sports fan, good to see you, and lots more people will be, of course, joining us in this WhatsApp World Cup show. And I just want to, of course, draw some light on the situation that Bangladesh were in when they lost Hridoy's wicket. And Jeet, they were 20 of 18 if the math in my head kind of works out. And I think it was in that situation. And we saw it with the Pakistan game as well. 2 set batters. And of course, everyone thought they could meander over the line. And similar venue. Why do you think this has happened in 2 different games, but similar outcomes? Can you put a finger on it?
I think with especially Bangladesh, it's something that has happened historically as well. They have the game set and kind of cleared as well, but at the back end they just cannot hold the nerve. They just try too hard. They go for those glory shots too early, and that is where it keeps costing them. But over here it was also a case of South African pacers finding the right lengths in the last 2 overs. I won't even count Keshav Maharaj. The pacers finding lengths in the last 2 overs that they bowled. It was really, really effective, and Bangladesh was just trying too hard. They were trying to whack the ball out of the ground when just hitting the gap also could have probably got the job done for them. So a little bit of inexperience on someone like Hridoy's part, but at the end of the day, they also had Mehmudullah, who was there in the previous game as well to get the job done and take Bangladesh over the line. So it's kind of costing them eventually, because if you play a little bit smartly there, if you just hit the gaps, if you look for twos and all those things, it will still get the job done. From 20 of 18, how do you get into a situation where you require 18 of 12? I don't recollect if they even scored a single boundary in the last 2 overs. From 18 of 12, it went down to, I believe, probably 11 of 6. It was 11, right? That was required of the last over, probably 13. But not a single boundary came in the last 2 overs. They were trying to hit it too hard and it was not even coming off, including the full tosses. So that inexperience and not being able to hold the nerve is probably costing these teams.
Okay, of course, we have so much to feature in the show, and we're going to, of course, look ahead and give you some trivia and, of course, tell you the who am I answers from yesterday and give you a new one today. But from the Ultra Edge perspective, which is another little segment in the show, there's amazing stats in cricket.com, and I just want to read out a few which the boys put up, of course, in some of the features and the pieces they've done following that match in New York, because it tells us a few things. It tells us that South Africa just don't lose to Bangladesh in T20 internationals. They have a streak against them now dating back to 2007, and that's 9 on the trot that they won against the Bangla Tigers. Lowest target successfully defended by South Africa in T20 internationals, it was this one, 114 versus Bangladesh in New York. The one prior to it was 116 versus Sri Lanka in Colombo in 2013. And lowest target successfully defended in T20 World Cups, South Africa as well, 114 against, yesterday pretty much in that game. Pramod, I just want to ask you about some of the silver linings in that Bangladesh defeat. And again, that pace duo of Tanzim and, of course, Taskin really rattling the Proteas.
Yeah, absolutely. There were in fact, there were many positives than negatives yesterday for Bangladesh. It's just that they just couldn't get over the line. The pace attack was terrible. Was terrific rather. Getting South Africa to 27, reducing them to 27 for 4. That was a commendable effort. And as I said earlier, the last 2 overs where they conceded just 8, especially if you look at Mustafizur's last over, the way he executed those cutters and slow balls outside off. I think there was just one wide in those balls. So I think those were terrific. Terrific effort, and of course Shanto's decision to get Rishad Hussain on in the penultimate over, and I think that worked as well. I think he got the wicket of Miller in that over, so that there you save about 6, 7, 8 runs just there. And of course their batting, I think they paced their innings pretty okay until the last 2 overs. And as Jeet said, they were really going for those boundary hits here and there. But again, among the batsmen, Tawhid Hridoy, again, he threatened to take the game away. He batted so well against Sri Lanka as well. Those 40 of 20 was really the game changer then. And his innings here almost proved to be the difference. So, so plenty of, and Mahmudullah almost finishing it off here, and he did so against Sri Lanka. So, plenty of positives for Bangladesh. It's just, they just, like they did against Sri Lanka, they just couldn't get themselves over the line, which was disappointing from their point of view.
No, that is true. And you mentioned a name there right now, and it's some name that, of course, Jeet has been mentioning in the previews in the lead up to the World Cup. Rishad, in terms of being the only fine, Rishad Hussain, let me get his name right, the 21-year-old from Bangladesh, because you mentioned a very important point. They never produced wrist spinners, right? They've always had, right from the days of Mohammad Rafiq to all of them, to even now the Shakib era, they've not had a really sensational wrist spinner. The wicket of Miller was a proof in the pudding that this guy has a really long career ahead of him. But do you think that's another thing? No matter where they end up in this World Cup, now they have another weapon in their bowling arsenal, Jeet.
They do. And the key over here is that the wrist spinners that they've had previously, having batters who could bowl a bit of wrist spin. In Rishad, they've got somebody whose primary skill is bowling wrist spin, and he also is a very good batter. So it's a different attribute altogether to have. So having a frontline wrist spinner is a huge boon to have right now, knowing the kind of tracks that they've got back home. It's a massive advantage and a massive addition altogether. The previous ones in Sabir Rahman, Alok Kapali, and all these guys were just chipping in with wrist spin, but they were part-timers at the end of the day. This guy is going to give you short 4 overs, and that makes a huge difference. And so far, we haven't seen it, but this guy also has the ability of whacking the ball down the order. So far, we haven't seen that, of course, like I mentioned, but he has the ability, and that's another very, very great asset to have. So he's one for the future, and that's for sure. So I'm really happy to see that kind of a variation, because at the end of the day, you need a wrist spinner when you're playing the T20 format of the game, or just white ball formats altogether. You need that wrist spinner, you need that different variation rather than having finger spin, which is kind of becoming out of fashion nowadays. So he's probably that one wrist spinner to look forward to for Bangladesh for a very, very long time.
Yeah, 1 for 32 last night, but keep an eye on him. And a good throwback name mentioned by Jeet over there, Alok Kapali. All those Bangladesh fans would know 100%. Akash, good to see you in the comments, buddy. And you go on to mention a good point about, of course, a pivotal figure in that Bangladesh team in terms of Shakib Al Hasan, because we saw it even in that warm-up where Bumrah pinged him with a short ball, and it's coming to the fore again. And Akash mentioned it over here, saying the most obvious ploy for oppositions. High time he upgrades his game or he opens, there's no in between. Just on that, Pramod, do you agree with Akash here in the comments?
Yeah, I mean, he's absolutely spot on in terms of Shakib's, sort of Achilles heel against short balls. But then yesterday, he was not the only one who struggled. Even I think Shanto got out to a similar delivery. So I think the track in New York sort of, if you pull the length back a little bit and you hurry the batters on, you're always going to get the top edge, or and force the batsman to play false shots and stuff. But yeah, I think the oppositions have obviously clearly stumbled upon the fact that Shakib does have a weakness against the short balls, and that is something they will use. He's such a key figure in that Bangladesh middle order. So with him out, the match is sort of tilted in your favor to a certain extent. So yeah, he really does need to work on it. I mean, he's one of the most senior players in the team, and he's, and we know the value of his wicket. So that's something that bowlers will obviously target, and it is high time that he sort of works on it or figures out a way to play that.
You mentioned high time over there because Vikas is not holding back in the comments saying high time he retires now. Enough of this whole Shakib vibe. But look, Bangladesh fans would agree or disagree, who knows. But good to see lots of people joining us all of a sudden. And thank you, Prayash. Really, really means a lot. We will talk about South Africa a little bit. Not just the fact that Maharaj bowled that critical over for them, but also the top order woes, because that's something that we want to, of course, pick slightly a little bit more, because Risa Hendricks, again, a first ball duck for him. De Kock promised, but then, of course, there are particular patterns ensuing, Jeet, about South Africa's top order, despite the fact they've got 3 wins on the trot. So do you look at that with a half glass full or the other way around?
I'm not surprised with the top order struggling. We have talked about Quinton de Kock's form, or the mentality that he has had these days of being just too casual in his approach. So it's not really surprising. We saw that during the IPL as well. This guy is not the Quinton de Kock that we knew of probably 5 or 6 years ago. He's completely faded out altogether. And then Risa Hendricks as well. I saw a stat put out by cricket.com yesterday about the lowest averages for openers in the T20 World Cups, and Risa Hendricks was amongst the worst, probably in the top 2 or even the worst. So that pretty much tells you the story of how bad a run that he's had. Previously, South Africa made the mistake of having Risa and Temba Bavuma both in this side in the top order, and that was obviously not the right way to go. This time there is no Temba Bavuma, but Risa Hendricks is not making us miss Temba Bavuma either with the way he's going about things. So it's not really surprising. And then, of course, it's Aiden Markram, who's also been out of form for a very, very long time. So things are not really working out well for them. Maybe there is a time to change something. Maybe someone like Ryan Littleton can be looked into ahead of Quinton de Kock just to change things up. A fresh player coming all together. He has no worry of form. He's not carrying any baggage altogether. So probably something to look forward to for them, because at the end of the day, your middle order cannot keep saving you every time. Every time you can't be relying on Heinrich Klaassen and David Miller and Tristan Stubbs to get the job done for you. The day they fail, you'll probably bundle out for 80, 90 runs, and that is something you don't want happening in the knockouts. So fix the issues right now rather than keeping them for late and suffering of not changing it in the knockouts. So it's something for them to look forward to, because they have the options in the squad.
Yeah, people kind of course pointing on the pitch, and NYX Times Square pointing out Reza has been the best batter in the last 4 years in T20 internationals. He will score good in other pitches. And again, the way that the fixtures are being shuffled out, South Africa have got New York not once but twice. and it makes you think how they will go ahead in the competition. Just a few things to get out of the way right now. One is a man that we were just talking a while ago, Rishad Hussain. It's a fantastic little article which I just want to present to you guys. It's available on cricket.com right now because it'll tell you one thing for sure. One is already, can you see it? Already Bangladesh's best ever leg spinner in T20 cricket. Now, this was, of course, put up by our colleague Anirudh Suresh, and some good numbers and stats and just a little bit more about the guy. I'll whiz through it for all you guys right now, but that's something to go check out on cricket.com. The other thing is I just want to, of course, showcase the points table of Group D, guys, because it just makes me ask y'all what the hell's going to happen there, because I know Nepal, of course, have played just one game, and let me just show it for you guys right now, because this is how it is. South Africa literally can already think about going ahead to the Super 8s. Make no mistake about that. Oops, let me get that graphic out. But how do you see the group panning out here? Jeet, I'll start with you because Akash has a good question for you. But really quickly then, South Africa and Bangladesh, you feel, or do you think the Netherlands, the Nepal, maybe Sri Lanka will make a late resurgence?
I think all the 4 teams besides South Africa are in contention. I believe South Africa are officially through to the Super 8s, if I'm not wrong. All the other 4 teams are in with a shout. I just hope that Bangladesh should have won yesterday's game. That would have made things a lot more simple, or perhaps even a lot more complicated. But I feel there is a strong chance for one of Bangladesh or the Netherlands to go through. Unless if Nepal can pull off something tonight, I will be surprised. But I think Bangladesh and Netherlands probably have a strong chance here. And if you look at the net run rate as well, it's very, very close. So I don't think that's also going to be something that might come into contention, or might in fact come to contention, because it's very, very close. But yeah, let's see. South Africa through, it's between Bangladesh and Netherlands.
And Pramod, Sri Lanka, Nepal, that'll be a feisty one.
Yeah, indeed. I think it'll be a game where Hasaranga returns to form. Maybe 3-4 quick wickets on top. He's made a career out of taking wickets against such teams anyway. So probably will be, and we'll probably see that again later tonight when they face each other.
Okay, absolutely. Let's just, of course, wrap up this South Africa-Bangladesh chat by just adhering to a couple more comments like I promised. Akash has another one saying, unfortunately, Jeet, you can't really replace Reza, but surely QDK has to go considering his form over the last year. Rickleton was in great form at the SA20. Was that a part of their thinking prior to the World Cup, or do you think there was always going to be de Kock having that precedence, given the fact that it could potentially be his last T20 World Cup, dare I say, or do you think there's more with QDK?
Well, that's exactly what even I was anticipating. I believe they have got Ryan Rickleton in the squad, but it was always going to be QDK who was going to start over Rickleton, because you back QDK, irrespective of the form that he's got. And exactly, even that's what I said, that if they are to replace somebody, it's got to be QDK, and they've got Rickleton as another left-handed wicket-keeping option, so they can always go to him. Reza, of course, has been the best batter, but a lot comes down to the pitches that he plays on as well. If you saw the bilateral series against the West Indies, he had a great outing because the tracks were such, they were flat, there was nothing in there for the bowlers, and he capitalized big time. So there was something for the spinners, but he was still doing a sensational job at, taking the game deep and getting the job done whilst the other batters were failing. So form has not been an issue. The pitch at times also has been really, really hard over here, but a bit more application from Reza Hendricks and he can come good. But right now, of course, the one guy that needs to go is QDK, and Rickleton has to get a look in right now to have that fresh player coming in right now.
And the good news for South Africa is that they're done with the West Indies leg of the tournament. I think the final game is away in the Caribbean, and of course the Super 8s again entirely in the West Indies. So that's one good news for them, and probably we'll see QDK and Hendricks among the runs probably hopefully in the next game.
Sorry, and that is a name pretty much doing the rounds in the South Africa domestic competitions. Ryan Rickleton, we've heard of him, we've seen him, of course, in the 100 as well, if you guys know your cricket. Prayash mentioning this one, saying Klaas and Miller cannot play the national games. They have to go in the middle of that early. And again, conditions, assessing it out. They've been in a spot of bother. So those two are the fulcrum of their batting. Nepal versus Sri Lanka is a completely new venue in Florida. Toss will be key. And I'm glad that Prayash has mentioned that, because we will, of course, have a little look ahead to the games in just a bit. But right now, right here, we, of course, want to show you what's trending. Lots of people making what they had to about that game, South Africa versus Bangladesh, and no rain at all in that one. But it was raining memes indeed, because you look at Mehmudullah's angst in that left picture, and it summed up pretty much how it was a gut-wrenching one for Bangladesh fans to take. Bottling bros, that one was captioned by that man on Twitter. And then Wasim Jaffer, who's never shy to put out a tweet or two, going on to say, Mehmudullah was wrongly given out LBW. The ball went for 4 leg byes. The decision was reversed in DRS. Bangladesh didn't get the 4 runs as the ball is dead once the batter is given out. Even if wrongly, and SA end up winning the game by 4 runs, feel for Bangladesh fans. And again, that was a huge talking point, which I've purposely not brought up so far in the chat, purely because I wanted to get the boys' thoughts about how that really played out, because I know it's a shit rule in cricket, and it's one of those where you're just like, how the hell could we kind of figure this loophole out? Pramod, I'll come to you first. I mean, what did you make of it? And do you feel sympathetic towards Bangladesh in that Wasim Jaffer tweet, for example?
Yeah, 100%. It's, I mean, it's sad when that happens. But at the end of the day, rules are rules. You can't do much about them now, can you? So just have to move on. But another another point that I would like to make is there were a couple of LBW decisions even otherwise. For example, one that Rishad Hussein's leg before. The umpires like literally were like barely took a second to give those things out, and there was even just a half an appeal from the bowlers and the keepers and things like that. So I don't understand the logic behind it, because it was very close. It was not like it was hitting middle or hitting leg. It was again an umpire's call that I think it was Tawhid Hridoy's decision that went this thing. And even this that went for 4, it was not. I mean, if you see it even in full replay, it didn't look out at all. It was. Your first impression is it is sliding down leg. So once that sort of doubt comes into your mind, I'm sure that came into the umpire's thought as well. That should ideally have been not out, if you ask me. But I don't know. There were some really scratchy calls out by the umpires in the middle. Although, that turned out to be umpire's call, and they saved the wicket, but then they lost out on 4 valuable runs. Whereas the other one, Tawhid Hridoy, it was the umpire had given it out, and it was umpire's call, and but both those decisions were like very, if you look at it in full, this thing, it looks like, that's clearly going down leg. And I feel around 9 out of 10 times, the on-field umpire would have given both of those not out. But unfortunately for Bangladesh, it sort of didn't go their way.
It didn't, but look, they move on to the West Indies in terms of the venues next, because they're done with their US leg of the World Cup. And I think that's something that the captain mentioned as well in that post-match press conference. I think they go on to St. Vincent. And I think South Africa also go to St. Vincent to face Nepal. So that comes very shortly, I think 13th and 14th in terms of the fixtures. But that was pretty much a huge talking point of that game. So that was the What's Trending section. And of course, we do not disappoint on the What's Up World Cup show or any cricket.com live show without trivia. And of course, it is time for Who Am I? Who are ya? Who are ya? Who are ya? Is what the British fans sing when they're playing football. But we are asking you this in terms of the Who Am I clue yesterday. Now, first up, we gave you 3 clues like we always do. And these were the 3 clues. I came into the limelight during last year's ODI World Cup qualifiers. The second clue was my brothers also played internationally for the country in terms of another sport. I'll give you that sport, which is rugby. And despite making my debut over 7 years ago, I played only 2 T20 internationals outside Europe. Now, the answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind, like Bob Dylan once sang. But it is Chris Soule. It is actually Chris Soule, Scottish cricketer, who of course has some sort of affiliation with other sports, like we mentioned there in that clue. I think his father David played rugby union for Scotland. His brother Tom also plays cricket for Scotland. So there is some sportingness in that family. And the winner was Shankar's 2858, which is good to see. So props to you, Shankar, for getting that particular Who Am I? And let me just quickly reflect a little interview done by Akash in Time to just share my screen and show you guys how we've actually spoken to this man, Chris Soule himself, a cricketer in a rugby-dominated household. It's a article, which we've, of course, posted a week ago, but still relevant and still good to hear from these cricketers who, of course, don't necessarily get the limelight, but then in a World Cup event, and of course, given the fact that Scotland are doing well, it's something worthy to read. So that was, of course, the Who Am I yesterday, but who am I today? I mean, not me, but essentially the person that I'm asking. Now, this is the clue that we're going to give you, or the clues we're going to give you today. I became the first player from my nation to pick a fifer on Test debut. The second one, I became the first player from my nation to score a World Cup ton. And of course, I'm the only one of 3 players to play the 2007 and the 2020-24 World T20 World Cup. So is it a straightforward one? Is it not? By Jeet and Pramod's expressions, you could probably tell that they know the answer, but they're not going to, of course, help you. So let us know in the comments. And of course, if you guys are as smart as Shankar was with the Chris Soul answer, tell us, and we'll, of course, reveal the winners in tomorrow's show. There is, of course, a good shout by Jeet in the private chat, and I'm not going to reveal the answers indeed. But Prayash, thank you so much for your particular comments in this. What's the day, lads? Tuesday, What's Up World Cup, because sometimes with all the cricket going about, we just honestly don't know our dates anymore. But we spoke about that, and now it's the end part of the show, which I love doing, which is obviously looking ahead to today's games and that feature in Let's Look. Right, what's in the offing on a terrific Tuesday? We can tell you that it's going to be a trio of games. And I'm talking about Pakistan, Canada, they're back in the mix. Bobsy and his lads, they take on the Canadians. Can they, of course, get the victory, or will it be maple syrup spread all over them and they have to go home with a sticky little face? Then Sri Lanka, Nepal, like me and Pramod were discussing, that's going to be fascinating. I want Nepal to really pull it off, but I also want Sri Lanka to keep their tournament hopes alive, because I know Nepal's played just the one game. And then, of course, 6 a.m., set your alarms if you care. Australia and Namibia, dare I say, another clinical performance from the men in yellow, or the men in dark green as they were in the T20s. Right, looking ahead, which one whets your appetite? I'll start with Jeet here. Is it the Pakistan-Canada game, given the fact that Group A is so topsy-turvy, or do you think there could be the other games which really could fascinate us as well?
So I think the first one is the right one. Canada versus Pakistan has to be the game to look forward to. It's going to be a lot more fun. Of course, Sri Lanka, Nepal also is going to be a close contest, and how the two teams are positioned in their particular group. But man, Pakistan, Canada, we know Pakistan and the kind of pressure and the scrutiny that they have been under coming into this game. There has been so many talks. They started loss to the USA, and they were already under pressure, and people were just blasting them off altogether. And then they lost against India, so that made matters worse for them. But coming into this game, I feel this is, of course, Pakistan's best chance to get one up against Canada, because Canada, at the end of the day, has got batters in the top order who struggle against high-paced, big time. So this is probably Pakistan's best chance to demolish their top order in the power play itself, seal the game, get some points on the board, and get the monkey off the back finally and get some points on the board.
Do you think Bobsy kar lega, Pramod? Masla sort against Canada?
Inshallah. But yeah. So, but yeah, I think as Jeet said, I think I'm looking forward to most to the Canada versus Pakistan game. Of course, Canada, right now are of course better placed than Pakistan to in a fight to make it to the Super. That's what I think makes it more exciting. But yeah. I mean, now Pakistan just don't need a win. They need to, I think, win by a considerable margin. I think, given that I think they have a net run rate of minus 115 or something like that. So yeah, I mean, as Price actually says, they're fighting for the third spot. That could be two actually. Yeah, but yeah, interesting game. It'll be interesting. And what I'm interested to see is how they sort of bounce back from that defeat against US. They had it in that game too. They had it in their hands for most of the time, and that super over really, I think, even the last over and the super over, I think those two overs were were probably those last bit of finishing touches, if you will, if that was missing from Pakistan's bowling. So hopefully they will come better this time. And of course, against India, they did well to restrict them to 120, but that time their batters unfortunately sort of let them down. So there's no real positive from both the games for Pakistan if you want to like really look at it. So yeah, a win of course is very important, but a margin of win also will come into play if they harbor hopes of making it to the next round.
I'll tell you what, Pakistan Canada normally in the hockey world is a fixture which stands up. But this one, given that Pakistan have just been shambolic, it really whets the appetite to see if they can actually get their first win of the World Cup or crumble again in a completely Kudrat ka Nizam factor. Speaking of Hindi, Akash being cheeky, saying Jeet trying to hide his laughter whenever Avanish is talking Hindi. Give it a go, lad. I give it a go whenever I can. But let's move on to that second game that we want to talk about. Will it be just a walk in the park, Jeet, for the mighty Australians, which of course comes from Antigua? I think we've seen one game in Antigua so far in the World Cup. I might be wrong, but do you think there could be high-flying eagles to, of course, shit on the Aussies, or do you think that's never going to happen as much as we want it to?
It's very unlikely to happen. So these two teams clashed in the warm-up as well, and that was a very, very one-sided encounter that took place in Trinidad. The track at Antigua is fairly similar in terms of how it's going to behave. So I expect a very, very similar thrashing from Australia. Although, like you said, I would love to see Namibia put up a fight. But in the realm of possibility, I think it's very, very unlikely given Australia's form as well. How David Warner took about Ruben Trumpleman in the warm-up game was very, very indicative of the brand of cricket that Warner is looking to play. And he's carried that form on in the actual event as well. He's been very, very aggressive and toned down opponents in the power play itself. So potentially, yeah, it should be a one-sided encounter. And Australia know that with this win, they can seal their spot in the Super 8s as well. So they will probably be looking to get the job done and just relax on the beaches of the West Indies and show up for the Scotland game with a very, very weakened side altogether to ensure that England are kicked out.
Yeah, I like the fact that you mentioned about what happens in terms of repercussions, whoever grabs the points here, because I know Namibia beat Oman, and the only team eliminated in this whole World Cup already is Oman. So they're out of it. But you have to think about it from an England perspective, that if they can actually mount up the challenge that Scotland already have 5 points on board, and England are yet to get off the mark. I mean, I know they got that 1 point with the rain or whatever, but if Namibia somehow, hook or crook, get the 2 points here, then they go on 4, and of course they join the Australians over there. So it'll be lots to, of course, see and pay attention to, even from a England perspective. So they'll be having a close eye on that one, but hopefully there is drama in that fixture. Finally, let's just, of course, speak about it again, the Sri Lanka Nepal one. And I know Sri Lanka are winless and Nepal have just played one game, but do you think the Nepal team can exploit this Hasaranga 11, which I don't think has been the best, Pramod? So what's your gut feel, and do you think Nepal will be right up for this fixture?
Yeah, they will be up for it. I don't know which player it was. They made a statement that they're going to win at least one of their remaining 3 games. They said they were confident of winning at least one. So I hope it is against Sri Lanka, because I know that really sort of further opens that group up, I guess. But Nepal, yeah, I mean, I know Sri Lanka batters, barring probably Pathum Nisanka and am I missing anyone? Probably he's the only one been among the runs, I think, so far, when he scored at about 40 odd in the last game. So there are areas where they can target Sri Lanka. Of course, Nepal have a decent fast bowling lineup. They have Sompal Kami, they have Karan Casey, Gulshan Jha, Avinash Bora, all good bowlers. It's just that they've not tasted any sort of experience at this level. So that is something that they want to sort of improve on. Another good news is, although he's not playing this game, Sandeep Lamichhane is back for the West Indies leg of the tournament. So if Nepal do get a win and they get Lamichhane back for the rest of the 2 matches, you never know. Nepal could challenge for that top 2 spot here. And the match, of course, is being played at Lauderhill, which is the first ever time in this World Cup. So that sort of throws up a little bit of more intrigue into this game. I was just looking at a few numbers. There were just 4 matches played at this venue since 2022. All of them have been India versus West Indies, where I think the spinners have had a little better record in terms of economy, runs per wicket, and balls per wicket. So that's something I feel works in Sri Lanka's favor, given that they have the better quality of spinners than Hasaranga and Theekshana and part-timers as well, Dhananjay and etc. But yeah, from that lens, from like Nepal, of course, can put up a fight, but it will be a little tricky against the Sri Lankan side that has enough quality to probably topple them over here.
Yeah, and rightly mentioned by you, Pramod, the fact that we've already seen 2 US venues, but this is the third one, and we've seen it in the past. Everyone, of course, thinks about that KL Rahul 100 and MS Dhoni losing it, and great games in Florida. But this World Cup, it'll be back to the rafters, given that Nepal's enjoyed some really good support in that first game against Netherlands. There'll be plenty of blue with the Lankan fans there as well. So, like right now, guys, before we end, 3 games, like we said, quick predictions then. Hand on heart. Who are you guys going for? Give me 3 winners and we'll see if you guys are right or wrong tomorrow at this time.
Okay,
Pramod,
I'll
you
start.
oh, yeah, Jeet, you go first.
Yeah.
I would say Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Australia. Straightforward games, barring Sri Lanka, Nepal.
Okay, fair enough. Pramod, do you agree,
Okay.
disagree?
I'll go with Canada, Australia, and Sri Lanka.
Okay, love it. I'm going to go for Canada, Nepal, and Namibia. Bring on the young boys. All of those proper pedigree teams in Pakistan, Sri Lanka, and Australia. Who knows? And we could be seeing a Super 8 without the likes of New Zealand, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, England. So you never know. It's the time for the other nations to stand up and make it count. And it's going to be a fascinating day of cricket ahead. Make no mistake. You guys can catch all the coverage on cricket.com. And of course, our reviews and our insights tomorrow in the What's Up World Cup show. Thanks so much for your time, lads, because it's been a good one, a quick one. Of course, pick the bones about the South Africa-Bangladesh game if you guys are just joining us. And of course, we've spoken about everything that you guys want to know about today's games as well. That's all we have time for. And it did almost sound like that particular thing that you mentioned over there. But good to see everyone with their comments. Quickly, just a shout out to VP Jeet saying badly needs Scots and Afghan in semi-final. They're too good. Proteas is a Nepal fan saying count us out. That's when we really shine. And it's not just about a win for us now. It's about showing the world that we belong here. And he goes on an ad saying Netherlands, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka beating each other would mean that they can all have 4 points max. I would be hopeful about Nepal's changes. They will make it through. Right, on that somber note from a Nepal fan, we will end proceedings on cricket.com. Plenty more content coming your way today, at least in the shorts carousel, and follow us on Instagram and, of course, X if you haven't already. By the way, we're on Facebook and Reddit if that is your social media fetish. That's all we have time for. Thanks for watching. Goodbye to Jeet, Pramod, and, of course, me, Avanish, signing off in this What's Up World Cup. Cheers.